Miami imploded in on themselves last night like I haven't seen in a long, long time, and lost to Georgia Tech 23-20 as about a 19-point favorite. So we have a rule on Sundays on this show, and the rule is we talk about the winners first. I have no idea how to do that. To properly tell the story of this game, how do I talk about Georgia Tech? I'll try. I will try. I got to give Brent Key and his staff credit. I got to give the team credit. You may think there's no skill in forcing the other team to run the ball when they're fully capable of taking a knee. Like, they have to be dumb enough to do that. You can't convince them to do that. That's true. So there was no skill in Notre Dame and Georgia Tech having anything to do with Miami running the ball and thus putting the ball on the ground and they get it back. If you don't know what happened, I'll tell you in a second. There's no skill in that. Okay, let me tell you right now, because you need it. Miami's got the ball and the lead with under a minute to go last night. All they have to do is take knees. Georgia Tech has no timeouts. All they have to do is take a knee. They don't. They decide to run the ball, and they fumble it, and Georgia Tech recovers, and they go 4 plays, 74 yards, in 25 seconds, touchdown, ball game. One of the most embarrassing moments I've ever seen any major college football program encounter. And so what I'll say about Georgia Tech is there may not be skill in forcing your opponent to make dumb decisions. There is a ton of skill involved in making sure you're in position to capitalize on mistakes. What I'm saying there is the score was 20-17 when this happened. What if it was 40-17? And everything else played out as you saw? What would happen is a meaningless garbage time touchdown is scored. It doesn't affect anything but the total and the point spread maybe. But Miami's still a winner, and they yawn and say, oh, well, on to North Carolina. But that wasn't the case, because the first 59 minutes of play, Georgia Tech made sure to be in position to where if something did happen, they took advantage of it. And then they still had to take advantage of it, and they did, and they scored. Unbelievable. So hats off to Brent Key for having him in that spot. Haynes King played his tail off last night. Most of you probably didn't even know he's the quarterback at Georgia Tech. Yes, he is. Now, I fulfilled my obligation. I talked about Georgia Tech there. The ending of this game was as bad as it gets. It can't happen. It just can't happen. It is mind-numbing stupidity to have that happen. It falls on the head coach. It falls on Mario Cristobal. He did it once before when he was at Oregon against Stanford back in, I think, 2018. I remember watching that game. Like, I think a lot of people saw one person tweet that last night, and they just started parroting that. I remember that game because they also had no business being in that situation against Stanford, just like they had no business being in this situation last night against Georgia Tech. That's all due respect to Georgia Tech. The line on this game was what it was for a reason. Miami was coming out of the bye week. Now, anyone who knows Miami football knows the bye week has not exactly been as kind to that program as it is to most programs, because most people who know Miami football know what can happen if a team located in South Florida knows they have a weekend off. And so I don't know what in the world led to a very, very subpar performance out of the bye week. And I don't claim to know. I just know we got one. And all of a sudden the game's on the line there. And I'll tell you what I think happened. It's very simple. I think they wanted to pad stats. I think they wanted to add another touchdown onto the board. It's as simple as that. And if I were playing a video game, I'd do the same thing. Because video games don't carry real-world consequences. So why not? Let Don Chaney Jr. run it one more time. The risk is so low. And while the reward's not sky high, man, we tack on another score. We win by double digits. This looks much better a month down the road. People won't remember the context because you never think about what could happen. Well, normal people don't. Head coaches should. Offensive coordinators should. And they didn't last night, and they paid the most ultimate price you can pay. You lost a football game that you had won. There's nothing Georgia Tech can do. You take knees, there's no defense that's drawn up to defend victory formation. And you opted against it, and this is what happened. I had a lot of folks come at me today and say, I bet you'll shy away from this tonight. No, I won't. It was a terrible decision. Horrific decision-making. Now, the follow-ups are what I disagreed with. I had 3 different folks. with opinions I respect, mind you. Two of them in this industry. DM me or text me and say, you got to fire Cristobal after this, don't you? No. What are you talking about? No, you don't. Let me take you back to 10th grade. Quick story. Because we are believers on this show that smart people can do dumb things. Dumb people rarely do smart things. So I got an academic scholarship out of high school. I don't want to brag because most of the kids in Georgia did during that era. It's called the Hope Scholarship. But your boy did get one. So I was on an academic full ride. And yet, once upon a time, I took a mechanical pencil. I took the eraser off of it. I poured the lead out. I took one of those pieces of lead. And you know what I did with it? I stuck it in a light socket because I wanted to know if the cartoons were real. When those cartoon characters get electrocuted, is that what happens? I can confirm for you tonight, electricity is real. I got electrocuted right there in science class, right there in Miss Bell's 7th grade science class. I don't think she saw it. Being electrocuted, by the way, is not what it's made out to be on TV. It is not fun. There is no yellow like haze that pops up around your body. There's no little orb. There's no sound. It's just really wild, and it shakes your entire body, and it hurts, and you don't know what's happening until after it's already happened. Crazy. So anyway, I did that, and look how fine I turned out. Yes, I'm absolutely equating me electrocuting myself in 10th grade lab to Mario Cristobal making the most egregious decision you've probably seen in the history of head coaching. How could you even separate the two, is my point. Anyway, all seriousness, here's what I look at. I look at things, if you're going to talk about someone's job security, I always look at things from 50,000 feet. Now, this screw up was so bad, I could even see it from way up there. But what I also see is way more talent on campus than there was before he got there. Program's still moving in the right direction, and the direction it wasn't moving before he got there. Investment is where it needs to be. Infrastructure's being upgraded. People have bought in. Like, all the energy around the program is what I need. Yesterday was what it was. It's a terrible loss, and it's one you literally handed your opponent. But what do we want to say? I want you to look me in the eye, and I want you to say, and this is what I told the 3 people that texted me earlier today. I want you to look me in the eye and honestly tell me you would watch that team go into yesterday 4-0, where you wouldn't have the slightest thought about firing him. And because he made that decision at the end of a football game, I want you to look me in the eye and tell me I'd fire him just because of that. It's not scandal. He didn't bring lawsuits on the university. It's nothing like that. It's just he made a really, really bad coaching decision. I really want you to tell me you'd fire him. None of the 3 said that. They backtracked over their own statement because anyone who would do that would themselves be out of a job shortly thereafter. You cannot pull triggers like that. You just don't. It's a non-issue to me. It's a non-starter, not a non-issue. It's a non-starter as far as that's concerned. But then I wanted to know what Miami folks thought about it, and they were irate, which they should be. It was terrible. I saw a lot of you saying, mark my words, this team is done. This team will go into the tank. This team is not done at all. This team has the biggest test of their season coming up Saturday. That's what they have. I immediately, when I saw this, thought to myself, I bet they'll play with their hair on fire this Saturday against North Carolina. That was my initial thought. A lot of Miami folks disagree with that. A lot of Miami folks think they'll be totally in the bag and North Carolina will shred them. Well, if you believe that, Vegas hung UNC minus 3.5 out there for you, and that's in Chapel Hill. So if you want it, it's there for the taking. No, you show me them getting blown out Saturday, then I'll agree with you. Yesterday, all yesterday did was provide something that will be on blunder reels until the end of time, provide a very bad loss on your resume, remove a lot of margin for error, and make Saturday a wounded animal mode spot for you. That's all it did. That's all it did. That's the long and short of it. So, I mean, you can be very harsh and very critical while also not calling for someone's job and not writing off an entire season. I've found that that's usually the way to go.